Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I am Erin Kamanaki, and I have Daniel Shawn and Jesse Stanley here. I'm going to let them
Hello.
introduce themselves and introduce us to We Will Write. So, if you guys can give a brief bio, an introduction of who you are.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Daniel, the founder of WeWillWrite, an educator and entrepreneur.
My name is Jessie Stanley, and I am a teacher. I've been teaching middle school, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade English in Centerville, Ohio for 22 years. So it's a suburb of Dayton, Ohio. And I've recently been introduced to WeWillWrite, and I've been using it for the past month or so, couple months.
Cool.
Thanks. And sorry about all the moving around. My computer does not hold a charge, and I ran out to grab my charger real quick. But that's how we work in education. We are on the fly. So if you are joining us live or you are joining this broadcast after the fact, we would love you to add comments, tell us where you are joining us from, a little bit about your background, and if you have used We Will Write. So let's see. Jesse, I'm going to kick you off stage for a moment. And I'm going to talk to Daniel, and then we'll bring you back on to talk about how you're using this in the classroom. So, Daniel, we were introduced several months ago, and just virtually, I guess. And I was using We Will Write, and I was like super excited about using it because my kids were super excited about using it. So, can you just like briefly describe what gave you this idea to found We Will Write, and like what hole were you trying to fill in education?
Well, it's kind of We Will Write is all about making writing playful and social and safe. Because when every student in a classroom wants to write, then teaching becomes much more enjoyable. So it was kind of the social thing that was most important for me. For me, writing is a social thing. It's not just assignments. It's socially motivated. It drives by recognition in the classroom, feedback, interaction. So if you write in a group, it fuels the intrinsic motivation to grow as writers. That's kind of the thing we try to do. So what I want to try is to help create classrooms where students look forward to write together, because I think the motivation is so much stronger in a group than just delivering assignments. So that was my starting point. I have a very personal background story if you want to.
Yeah, I would love to. And I do want to say that I have seen exactly what you've wanted to do, like your reason for creating it, the excitement. I have seen that every time that I have used We Will Write, and I am a middle school teacher, and so that is hard. So I really appreciate what you've created because your reasoning has, I see it. I see it every time we use it. So yeah, I would love to hear a personal story though.
Yeah, because for me, I've been doing this for a long time. 10 years ago, I set out to kind of help my youngest son how to learn to read at that time. He was born with a kind of severe hearing problem, so he needed extra support. So that was my kind of starting point into EdTech. But experts kind of warned me that pushing kids too early can backfire. So that leads to frustration and loss of confidence. So instead of pressure, we turned reading into a game, in one that was fun, engaging, and relatable, and built around his ideas. So, and that game became Poyo, and a method that helped hundreds of thousands of people in Scandinavia before Kahoot acquired it in 2019. So after Poyo's success, I realized that I can use the same approach into writing. So as a father of sons, now they are 12 and 14, I see firsthand how the art of writing is fading. I know teachers see that as well, all around. So that was kind of my background motivation for going into trying to see how can I help children who struggles for all sorts of reasons, and all that inside. I try to push that into the product. So for me, it's also more than just a tool. It's also kind of what we share here today, like a movement, but how can we bring more enjoyment into the classroom when we educate writing? So yeah, and these products doesn't just appear. It's kind of, I've been prototyping this for a long time in classrooms, teaching with prototypes and changing and finding all these things that makes the complex dynamics of a classroom actually work. It's really difficult actually.
Yeah, I mean, you don't, as a teacher, you're just like, oh, here's a great product to use, and you just like kind of take it for granted without always knowing how it started or all the iterations, you know. So I appreciate having contact with you and the open line of communication. And if you are new to WeWillWrite, I have to say, like, Daniel and his team are here to listen to teachers and listen to all the feedback. The changes that are happening with WeWillWrite are super quick. They're like happening at lightning speed. If you are someone that used WeWillWrite, you know, back in October, it is a lot different now. And there's so many more like discovers and ability to create challenges and new things. So even if you have used this in the past and you were thinking, oh, I don't know how often I can use this, please go back to it, look at it again. Jesse and I are going to be sharing how we use it in our classrooms. And so I hope you gain new ideas, or if you haven't used it, hopefully you can think right now ways that you want to incorporate it into your classroom. So thank you, Daniel. Any last words before I kick you off stage and bring Jesse back?
No, I just we're really excited to see what teachers are going to use this tool with now, when it's possible to create whatever content you're up to. So I'm really excited to look what you want to share tonight.
Yeah. And can you let us know, like, I'm a teacher, I use WeWillWrite, but I want to learn how other teachers are using this resource or find a community. Where should I go? Do you have like a Facebook group or something that I can find other educators using this tool?
Yes, you can join our Facebook page. You can follow us on lots of social channels, and we will work with and have more webinars and share more knowledge this spring. And we will during the spring also let teachers be able to share their content with their colleagues. So there will be more information. So I think following our Facebook page is probably the best suggestion.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Well, we will see you in a bit, and I'm going to bring Jesse on now. Hey, Jesse. I'm going to unmute your mic.
Hello.
Hey, I am going to start us off with just kind of, if we have people joining us that have yet to use WeWillWrite, I'm going to share my screen and kind of walk through like how to get started with it. Feel free as a teacher that also uses it. I think you said you were 22 years middle school. Is that right?
Yes. Yep.
Yes.
Stuck in the middle. Yep.
Same. There are not many of us, 22 years of middle school. So I'm going to share my screen. And what I would love is I'm going to get right into WeWillWrite. I'm going to move this screen here and get right into the website. And please, if you have anything to add, you know, just jump right in. And if anyone viewing has a question, leave it in the comments. We will either answer it live or we will come back to this. This will be saved, obviously, on the YouTube channel if that's where you're watching it now. And we will come back and answer any comments or questions that you leave. All right, so if you are new to WeWillWrite, you will sign in just with your email and a password. And this is the landing page that it takes you to. And so I'm going to talk through this pretty quickly so we can get into like the real exciting part of WeWillWrite, which is the new feature, creating challenges. But I just want to show those of you that may be less familiar with it, just some basics. So you can create classes. So right now I'm just in a demo class, but I have some other, my other period. And you can decide whether you want to break up your classes if you're a secondary teacher for every period, or if it's just easier to organize with one class. And you can change some details about your profile. Now on the left-hand toolbar, you'll see the Discover tab. And the Discover tab is everything that WeWillWrite has created that we can just use. So it's ready-made resources, but there are ways to like personalize it. So you can see here, it's so many things, and they are continuing to add. I remember months ago, I would look at this and it was like 4 rows. And when I came back on after our December break, our holiday break, I came back on, I was like, whoa, where did all of this come from? They have really been adding. So let me just pick one, Trouble Ahead. And you do have the ability to personalize even what they provide you. Now, this is also new. If you haven't, new-ish, if you haven't logged into WeWillWrite recently, it used to be that you couldn't edit the times, but now you have the ability to kind of edit the median time. Now, why can't you add 15 minutes? Well, there's been a lot of research that goes into creating these times so that they continue to be engaging and meaningful. We don't want to give students 15 minutes of writing off of a one prompt. I mean, we would just use a Google Doc for that or some other application. This is really to get students to like get their ideas moving. So it does give our session time, and that's based off of how many challenges you see in this set. So if you're like 41 minutes of this, no, that's not what I want to do. You can uncheck, and as you uncheck, you see the time changes. It decreases. Now you
And I
can
think
also
that's factoring in some in between transitions. It gives you a great opportunity. So if you add the minutes for each writing activity, it doesn't equal the time that's put up there. WeWillWrite has done a great job for a teacher it gives you the transition time to talk through and to tell the students what it is that they're needing to do so that it does actually fit into that window.
yeah.
Otherwise, if they just took the literal time for each task at writing, you would not be able to get it all done. So it is giving you a good estimate to really teach what the thing is that you're doing with your kids. So keep that in mind, that it's bigger than just adding the numbers together, because there's the transition discussion time that's worked into it that works perfectly.
Excellent point. And you can see here how much time they'll be writing. So 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes. And that's because I set the median time. So Jesse's exactly right. Like this session time is the session where there's feedback, where you're looking at each other's writing. So
You're
it's
reading a
not,
part aloud. Yeah.
yeah. So it's not 33 minutes of writing. So yes, if you have a 40-minute class period, I know like in secondary, then maybe 33 minutes is appropriate. I can have a bell ring or something at the end, or maybe my intent is not that this is going to be the bulk of my lesson. So great point. Thank you for adding that. When you click on the details, you can also see the tips that are added to each of the prompts. And again, you can click off and increase and decrease. If you're not sure how this will look, you can choose the classroom simulator. And this allows you, I love this feature
Yes.
because especially as a new user, I was like, how will this look on my students' end? And you never want to like make your students your experiment. I mean, when you are using new technology, you are kind of playing it by ear, but I want to have an idea about what my classroom is going to look like during this. And so a lot of software doesn't give you this. A lot of software, you're like, I guess we're just going to get a link and you guys are going to click on it. So this allows you to have a link, the pin, and you actually, right now, I'm clicking in the numbers that are here. And then I would enter my name. And I always tell students, you don't need your full name. It does make you put at least 2 letters. And then here it's simulating as though I have bots. It says I have 8 bots and 1 student. And it really guides me through the process and what it looks like both on the classroom screen, like at the front of your room, and then the student screen. So I really like this.
Students do love to watch that classroom screen.
Yes.
I would say that you want to keep that up because they get to see a whole bunch of great feedback of how the other teams are typing, of how much time is left. It really gives them great input and keeps them engaged. So I would strongly encourage you having that classroom screen displayed.
Yeah. So what Jesse's talking about is this left-hand side as students are typing on the teams. It's like, whoa, our team's written 100 words. Look at us compared to another team. So this gets them to be competitive. And there's some other features as well on the student screen. They didn't pop up here, but they have two little tags on either side. Let's see, where it will give you like the topics, like some details to help them, as well as what their teammates have written. So we weren't able to see that probably because I wasn't typing in and neither were the bots, but there are some scaffolds there as well. They then will choose, once the time is up for the prompt, they will then, and as a teacher, you might want to reiterate the criteria. You might want to pause and say, okay, remember, this is what we're looking for. This was the goal and the purpose of our writing.
Yep.
And then students have the ability, with that in mind, to look at their team members' writing and choose which one from their team they felt was strongest. Now, in my class, we make it completely anonymous. And I think this might be, I'm going to click off of this. I think it's just lagging me a little bit because it's live. It's completely anonymous. So the students don't know whose team they are on. And I think that keeps them engaged as well and helps with the voting be a little more objective. Would you agree with that, Jessie?
Yeah, and it does prevent them currently right now from voting for their own team. But sometimes that's also limiting because then they're feeling like, but that's the best answer. I still do want to vote for that. I feel like they're not able to pinpoint one answer to a student. And if anything, if there is someone who gets pinned to an answer, it's because of the pride they like can't keep. If everyone's like talking about how great this one response is, they're like, that's me, you know, so they can't keep it to themselves because they're so excited.
Yeah, yeah. And I closed it out. It was slowing down my internet a little bit to have all that classroom simulator live, but it goes through the whole process where you pick your teams, like who from your team's going to the top, and then you challenge the other teams, and it then appears on the teacher screen. So then you can really pause again, go through it. The teacher can read aloud the final responses, go back through the criteria, and really have some think alouds. Or you can have think, pair, shares with students looking at each one. There are a lot of instructional strategies that you can bring in at this point, and reflection on writing is real big. And I even allow my students, we write on our desk quite a bit. And if I know that I'm going to take that writing and I'll let them expand on it, I'll be like, take an idea. What do you see that you like from this student? Like, make a note of it, either on your paper or just on your desk so you can come back to it. Do you have anything else there, Jessie, that you've done or that you would suggest?
I think that the fact that regardless of whatever setting and things you have on the site itself, the whole time it is all anonymous. And so it has these protective elements to where the students feel enabled and they're not self-conscious. They're scoring each other and they're actually just looking at the writing rather than looking at the peer who created it, which is very cool to think of it as evening the playing field a little bit. I do really like also that it has them, it gives them the ability within the text box to kind of spell check. There's a red little squiggly line that comes up and they can check that spelling. Hopefully they're close enough where we'll give them something. So really realizing and really using this opportunity to focus on, now this is a draft. This is a first draft. Spelling mistakes are great. You're getting your ideas down. We're working through. And obviously, if you were to take this writing further, you would focus in on your writing. And today, in fact, in my 6th grade class, where I have a huge range of ability, like multiple grade levels below and a few grade levels above in my 6th grade class, they were not inhibited or nervous to type their answers because they knew that it was the draft, it was anonymous, everyone did write something, and they valued everything. So I think that it's such a nice platform to give the voice and confidence that if their name was tagged to it. But on your end as a teacher, the other good thing is you can always see who said what.
Yeah,
100%.
yeah.
It tells you everything and you get a full report. You get word for word, letter for letter typing of what they did.
Yeah, and as a
Um,
secondary teacher, everyone wants to know, well, what if they write in something inappropriate? And it will kick them out if they use
yep,
inappropriate language or if they try and use another student's name. So we've had
yep,
some creative writing instances where students weren't even trying to be malicious, but I think we did
yep,
like give the life of a lifeless object, and it was like a
yep.
toothbrush, and they tried to name the toothbrush
The
after
name of the
one of the
student.
kids, and
Yep.
it didn't allow them to do that. So there are some safeguards there in place. That's always like a question secondary teachers especially ask. And that's built in. And as a teacher, I don't even always realize that until the end when I go back to my student text and I'm like, oh, and it'll show you which students tried to do that. So if you need to follow up, you'll know who you need to follow up with. If we
Or if
go
you
back,
want them to
I'm
develop,
sorry.
if you want them to develop the writing more, that you
Mhm.
could get access to everything that they wrote because it is saved on your end, and you could get that back to them if they're like, I started a really good piece. It was such a fun prompt. What did I say? And you could start them off with what they did and have
Yeah,
them go from there because it saves on
yeah.
it.
And we'll get I want to follow up on that when we get into the creating challenges and more towards the
Okay.
end. But a feature I didn't know, Jesse, until maybe a month ago, is that you can click at the very end, as long as you don't close out and those students don't close their Chromebooks, at the very end, they can copy to clipboard. And then it automatically
Oh,
copies all their writing and you can paste it right to a Google Doc or any other application.
I
So
didn't know
we'll
that.
get yeah, I didn't. I learned that from another teacher actually that was using
Okay.
WeWillWrite. Yeah, it's awesome. So don't let the kids like close their screen and you don't end the session. And then students on their screen, it'll pop up copy to clipboard. They can
That's
automatically
what I
copy
mean.
that to a Google Doc. Or we're at the end of this, I want to talk about other ideas for app smashing and other platforms that they can copy it to and then expand their writing. So here you can also save the set. So let's say I've edited. I know I want to look at this, but I'm short on time. I'm not quite sure. This is like, oh, I do this way too much. I save things and then I have a whole folder of just saved items. But you do have the ability so that as they continue to add more on this Discover page, you're not having to scroll so much. Also, you can find if you're looking for a specific genre, a specific grade level, this is great, or duration. Know that you can also edit that on your own though. My sets, excuse me, is where any sets that you have done, any folders that you've created, this is where we're going to get into creating challenges, and I'm going to let Jesse take that away, is all found here. And then the student text is where excuse me, you can see all the student text. So this is my demo class here. And if I were to click down, it would give student names and their writing. So Jesse, I'm going to cough and I'm going to let you take it away with creating
Enjoy your cough
challenges. Yeah.
as we're both battling leftover fun stuff for sure. Um, so hello once again, Jessie Stanley. I'm in Dayton, Ohio area, and I teach 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. I actually teach all 3 grades and have my kids looped for 3 years. So I really get to know these kids over the 3 years, and it's always impressive to see how much they grow in confidence. And I'm excited to see how WeWillWrite will enable them to gain some confidence very quickly. Actually, we've moved big spots for sure. So um, I'm on my landing page, like Erin was talking about. As you come on to the Discover of WeWillWrite, I have some different classes over here listed. um, I would encourage you to make sure that when your students first sign in, when they join a session, that they put their first and last name accurately, because like Joe, Bob, Joe, sometimes gets a little tricky. And then if there is something where somebody is putting someone's name in it in the text, it's just not going to catch it like that if it's not their actual name. So using their true names is great. Um, the way that I first started with WeWillWrite was using all of the different sets that they have created. And like Erin was saying, there's so many more now. And now any of these are an option, and you can shorten them to make it what you want and add. So that's fabulous. It gives you a start for any independent creative set that you might want. Don't feel like you have to start this from the ground up or come up with your own idea. For my sets recently, I found some that were already available, and I narrowed them down based upon the time that I had or what exactly we were talking about. Some recently that I did with my class that were huge popular hits. I created a set where we created a persuasive sales pitch to convince somebody to buy a pencil, just a regular old pencil. And why should I buy it? What's so great about it? This one had an eraser. They were talking about how it was already sharpened. They were talking about how yellow is the best color. They were coming up with all sorts of ideas and trying to persuade their audience. And some of them were being super goofy of the different things you could use a pencil for, like scratching your head or picking your nose or things like that. It's middle school. And then the next one was create a persuasive sales pitch to convince someone to buy a dirty shirt. And I had a picture of a dirty shirt. And I said, where is this shirt from? Whose shirt is it? Why would somebody want to spend money on this? Why is this important? And they had a blast with this. They were laughing out loud as they were typing. And when you talk about doing writing in your classroom, that's not what you think of. When I say, okay, we're going to do a writing activity later today, and they're like, ugh. And I was like, okay, thank you for the eye rolls. Put them back in your head. Like, I don't need the sass. I promise it's going to be fun. And they're like, well, what if it's not? And I was like, I promise it's going to be fun. And then lo and behold, at the end of the period, when we finished, convinced me to buy this dirty shirt. They were begging me to do something else tomorrow. Every time. And Erin, I'm sure you're getting it as well, whether it's a silly thing or even academically based on a text that we've read. They are so excited and they're quiet. They're like when they're typing. And I'm looking around like, that's right. That's right. I did this. This is me. This is my class. Like, my kids like to write. So it's super it's enjoyable on everyone's end for sure. So those were just some fun ones that we did the other day. Another set that I did, and you just go to create set and you'll add your challenge and create challenge, and you'll find a picture. Upsplash is a great site that actually WeWillWrite suggested to me to find some free stock photos, and you can just search free stock photos and you can upload those images, and it will let you, as you find an image, it will let you go through and it makes the image look like one of their set prompts. So it's pretty cool because you look official already. It looks like these prompts that are already existing. So they're not going to be like, did you create this one? They already think it's official. I created one that was based upon a text we had read, which was a play called Sorry, Wrong Number in 7th grade. And these prompts in particular, I wanted my students to go back into the text and I wanted them to provide the best quote, the best detail from the text that proved this. And so, for instance, in Sorry, Wrong Number, there is somebody a woman overhears the plan of a murder. And you end up finding out that she's the one who's going to be murdered. And in fact, it's her husband who has set this all up. And so the first question that I had was, what details from the text do you feel best foreshadowed that Mrs. Stevenson was in fact the target? And so they went through in 2.5 minutes and typed up what they felt told us. It's you, lady. It's you. How did you not see this? It's you. And then they got to rate each other of who did a better job supporting. And as a teacher, where you're being scored on, you're having your kids being scored on their evidence, this was perfect. They were telling me exactly what in the text told them that detail. And then the next prompt was, and they didn't even complain. They didn't complain like, oh, you're making us do a writing response. It wasn't like that at all. It was like a game still, but we were writing about story that I would have had them do on a document anyway.
Yeah. Can I interrupt you, Jessie, real quick?
Please.
This gets me thinking, if we're trying to do a longer writing, but we're just trying to get them started, doing like claim, evidence,
Yeah.
reasoning, and you can break up that longer piece of writing into parts. Um, and so this is a great way that got me thinking just now, whether we're doing science writing, like off of content, claim, evidence, reasoning after a lab, or to support what the main idea or the theme of a passage
Yeah.
is. So I love how you broke this down with, the students' own words, and now we see evidence. And I could see this even, you were saying how you have so many abilities. I do too. I have, here they label classes like advanced, regular, co-taught, like X level, A level, co-taught. And so this is where we would have the same goal in terms of the prompts, but maybe the number of our set looks a little bit different. Like we have more challenges because I've really scaffolded and broke it down. And maybe that's also because some of my students are slower typers. And so within 3 minutes, what they can produce might look a little different in some classes than others. So I love this ability now to really personalize it for your classes.
Well, and Erin, even using the class, having the class use each other as the scaffolding, as the modeling, if we all vote who has the best, then let's all use it. Like, right? What if we all put in what is the best quote, or write a summary about the text, and we're all going to write it in and we're going to vote on who has the best summary. And then we can all start our introduction with that summary and it's done. Right?
Yeah,
So
and
we've gone through the motion, we've seen, and now we've selected and we've analyzed who had the better piece of writing.
yeah, and I love that, like if you're saying who has the best text evidence, because I would say, I think what I would have for like my first period is I would have, because I teach all seventh grade, and I'm not like you where I'm teaching all of them. So we're probably reading the same text. And I would say, okay, first period voted this the best piece
Oh,
of
yeah.
text evidence.
Oh,
And that way, if my classes, I have classes of students that may struggle more than other classes, that it's not like a blank page. It's not empty. They have something to pull from. So whether it's each other in the same class, or we can share, like in period 1, this is what they said. In period 2, this is what they said. And it just so happens my co-taught classes later in the day, they can see that feedback from our clipboard that I've like compiled stuff from the other classes. So even if they aren't able, let's say we say, locate the best evidence and type it in. And then I could have a challenge after that that's like, here are 3 pieces of evidence. Which one do you feel is best? Also.
yeah. Yeah. Well, and then I think that also that part of the student experience where you were talking about that they can preview what other people on their team are writing is something when a student feels a little stumped or is wanting affirmation that they're on the right track. That is something that they can they get to sneak peek a little bit at somebody else's answer. And I would say at first I was nervous. I was like, oh man, that means that the kids don't have to do the reading. That means that they could copy someone's answer. But the way that they're using it is more just that affirmation of like, I'm on the right track. Or, ooh, someone wrote way more than I did. I've got to get typing. And it's not like they're staring at it and retyping what someone else has done. They're using it just as that little bit of scaffolding on their own to keep them on track. So I've enjoyed that too, of where a kid might feel lost of where to start. That's kind of broken that barrier and made it feel like it's more achievable for them,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. I love
The
that.
other prompt, yeah, the other prompt I did, where I was trying to really pull out that response to literature aspect, was, like I said, the husband in the movie or in the play was the one who had set up the murder of his wife. It's fabulous, an old radio drama. Sorry, wrong number. And it said, what detail do you believe best indicates that it was in fact Mr. Stevenson who arranged arranged the murder? See, it's okay to have typos. It works. And the kids went through and they had to find that quote and support their answer with that. And some of them were much better than others. And so some definitely were a clearer cut argument. So they might have thought they had a good quote before, but then to see what somebody else had pulled really made a big difference for their writing. One other thing that I've used, even just today, when you're worried about some of these things, say they take 20 or 30 minutes, we had a little bit of extra time today in 6th grade. We were doing breaking down a state prompt sort of thing and talking about like what is it asking us, and a lot of kind of lecture note taking stuff. And I asked my co-teacher, I said, do we think we're done? Do we think we got enough for today? And he said, yeah. And I said, okay, let's do a writing. We'll do a We Will Write. And the kids were like, yeah, because we had done the silly ones before. So we did this, describe the event, and I just had gone into my sets and then create a set, and I found a prompt, just a picture that was already there, and I just selected this one. It took less than 10 minutes. So it was my wrap up to my class. And they were hooting and hollering and laughing and having such a good time at the end. And the things that they wrote, it was just this one activity, and it takes about 9 minutes. And then at the very end, they all become published. That's something else I wanted to make sure I said. Erin, you were telling me about that clipboard. That's awesome. At the very end, one of the best things, and it's so silly, but for them, it's so huge. It does this like almost the cast,
scroll.
What?
Yeah, the scroll, like you
scroll.
would get at the end of a movie where all of their writing.
It shows everyone's writing, and it says like a huge accomplishment how many words they wrote. Like for my 6th grade group, ability 6th grade, some of them were like at 2nd grade level, and they wrote 1,000 words in 3 minutes is what they typed. 3 minutes they typed, and it's 1,000 minutes or 1,000 words, and then it shows everybody's writing. Everyone's writing scrolls up like on a Post-it, and all of them feel like I've selected their writing. That's my favorite part. They're like, that was mine. I was like, I did nothing for this, guys. And I'm excited to see it because it's published. That's official. So that's one of my favorite parts at the end, and you just let it roll. And they're so excited to point out which one's theirs, even if they'd be embarrassed because there were so many errors or it was so short. Every single one of those kids points out theirs, and I love it.
Yeah.
So that's one of my favorite things as well.
I want to share a couple more things, but Jessie, you mentioned how you use this like at the end of class. If there's a teacher that's like looking to use this for the first time, what part of the lesson do you think is good to start with this? Or is there no like right or wrong? Like, where did you start using this within your lessons?
I think so. I started it obviously when it was before you could create sets, and I found a fun prompt. Most of the prompts at the time, and they kind of still are more fiction based. You're writing fiction, and so I tried to find one like this alien one, or that was asking. It was like the YOLO, like your grandma bought you this hat. How do you convince her? Where's this one? Convince your grandma that this hat, YOLO swag, is exactly what you wanted. And so just kind of putting that out there. And I used it actually kind of as we're done. Let's wrap up with something fun, so that I could, if it failed, it was like, okay, see you tomorrow, guys. Bye. It wasn't like opening my class with some epic fail. And it didn't fail, but it was just something to where you can, now that you can especially select one prompt to get your kids to kind of try it out and to trust the process. I would say it's a great end of the day, a fabulous Friday activity, because they think it's the most fun thing that they've ever done. It doesn't matter how many ever silly things you've had them write before. None of them gripe, none of them complain. So I would say a Friday end of the period activity would be my go-to. I got you guys, and you'll hook them.
Yeah, and I saw someone on the I think it was a Facebook group. I mean, when I pitched this webinar being tonight, I was like, it's We Will Write Wednesday. Like it just is kind of a thing. And I saw some other teacher on Facebook that was like, we have We Will Write Wednesdays. So they've kind of integrated it that way. One way I've like brought it into my classroom too is that we read something we talk about what we've read, then we write about it collectively, and then we take this and do independent writing. Now, some classes that is a nice 55-minute period. Some classes that's over 2 days. If we're expanding the writing, maybe day one, we're reading and we're talking about what we read. And so they've had the opportunity to read, whether that's, they've had audio support, paired reading, small group, whatever it is, whatever that looks like in your room. And then we've talked about it. So they already are coming in with some background knowledge. And then we're writing, no pressure, anonymously, kind of in this way where they're getting peer feedback. We're going through it one by one, and then they're expanding on it. And I found that has been really great too, because this is fun, but then they say, hey, this is helping me with my other work too.
I think also that they get to see how somebody else answered it. And they get to analyze their own writing against that.
Mm-hmm.
And they get to now, so it used to just be pick the better one. And now there's the scale you get to rate. And I think that thought process of why is something better, and when names are not tied to it, when it is anonymous, and when they're actually looking at what was asked and how did the student do and why is this one better. So I feel like the metacognition of it all is such a strong growth aspect to where they can really see where they might have missed something before, like, oh, I didn't do that.
Yeah.
I didn't explain, or I didn't have any periods in my answer. I didn't do any punctuation. You're like, yeah. So,
yeah, and this ability to create challenges and personalize your sets now, this new feature, really, you can really hone in on what you're looking for with your class and make it different for every class.
WeWillWrite is fabulous. I mean, they take so many great suggestions. Anytime you write to them or contact them, it's really remarkable how quickly they respond back, or how quickly you notice the change that you were saying. It would be really great if whatever. And I've suggested so many things and seen these things in action. Other teachers must be suggesting the same things as well. But the idea that WeWillWrite's trying to hit every point that we want, but we all are in different places in the world. We all have different standards. We all teach kind of different classes.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all reading different things. So if we're trying to pull in some of those responses to literature, or whether we're trying to pull on the kooky word that the kids keep saying, that you just can't skibbity, you can't get them to stop whatever the new word is, like, play on that.
Yeah.
Use that. And we are now enabled to make our experience unique for our kids, to what we're reading, the things we're seeing and saying. And so it's so cool and so easy. And it looks professional. It doesn't look like you've just Jimmy rigged this whole thing. It looks professional for sure.
Yeah.
Instantly.
Yeah, and I do think that this is a great tool. There is so much AI out there, and we have teachers using that, but then teachers that are hesitant, and we're concerned about student data and all of that. And I think this is a great tool because teachers, I mean, it obviously probably uses AI to create some of these images, but it's not students use, like, it's kind of a breath of fresh air that it is authentic student writing. You know that the students created this themselves. You know that this is their words, for better or worse. So it's great for that, because that's sometimes just what we're looking for. And not to negate any of these other resources. I use other resources, but I love this for what it is and what it provides.
Well, and I think that having the kids, where we're talking about getting feedback from AI, and we're talking about looking at writing and getting someone to analyze the writing, what better peer review is there than having this friendly competition, or this opportunity to see the multiple takes of one prompt? It really enables us to get more eyes on students' writing, than what we're capable of doing ourselves.
Yeah.
Looking
Yeah.
for help. This does it. This helps. This has our kids look and analyze at each other's writing. So it's fabulous.
Now, can I bring in one more thing? And this might be new to you. This is like the part of this app smash and the copy to clipboard. Okay. So I'm going to share my screen again. And actually what I'm going to share, because I have blurred out some of the sensitive information, is this slide deck. And so Jesse, you can take this link too. I'm going to put it in the comments, tinyurl.com/ let me find my mouse again. .com/www for WeWillWrite teacher deck. And I'll put that here in the comments. And this will take you to the slide deck. Everyone should have view access. You can make a copy of it, edit it for your needs. But it's kind of just a landing page that hope to update just as new features come out. So if you are new to WeWillWrite, you can use this. If you want to share WeWillWrite with a colleague and just have something to show them. And so it just kind of goes through getting started, what's on the landing page, all the things that we've talked about tonight with just some images and some videos, and then some ways to use it in the classroom. And as teachers share more ideas, we'll have more here. But I want to get down to the bottom, so strategies for success, but this app smash. So I've actually used both of these in my classroom, and the first one was WeWillWrite. So remember, at the end of a challenge, it copies to a clipboard. So this was actually like a descriptive, you may have seen when I shared my page, I think it was like a Christmas prompt is what I named it, although it wasn't Christmas, but it was a gingerbread house. And they had to write a descriptive piece, like describing a gingerbread house. And then some students put that into Canva as like a flyer to try and sell their gingerbread house. So they made like a real estate flyer. And in Canva, they actually created their own image. So then they put some of their words, because in Canva, you can generate an image using text. So some of the text that they created in WeWillWrite, they copied and pasted that descriptive writing into Canva, and it generated this gingerbread house. And then they made a flyer and they expanded their writing. Obviously, not all this writing was done in WeWillWrite, but that was kind of the starting point. And then they created an image using the writing from WeWillWrite. Same for this other image with this dog in front of the fireplace. They used WeWillWrite for descriptive writing. And then they saw like, what image? Is this the image that you had in your mind? If not, how can we edit our writing to get an image that more mirrors each other? So that's one way that I have used the copy in a unique way, other than just like having kids go back to their writing and edit and revise. And then another way that actually WeWillWrite's going to highlight in February is app smashing with Book Creator. So this is actually, the students took that pencil. It was the challenge. This was before you could create challenges, and it was like giving life to the lifeless and like act as though you're someone's toothbrush, or you're a pencil from the classroom, or someone's phone. And so those were the 3 challenges. And then I had students pick which their favorite was, and they copied that text into Book Creator. And then they created a children's story using Book Creator from what they had written in WeWillWrite. And in February, we actually, Daniel has some of the Book Creator members coming in and talking about like the Book Creator features that really meld really well with WeWillWrite. But the fun part about this is I have a 7-year-old at home. So I told my kids, I'm going to read all your books to my 7-year-old, and he's going to vote which one he likes best. So make it good. Don't make it boring. So I wanted to share those because maybe those are ideas for you too in the classroom to use.
Yeah, no fun. And just once again, authentic writing, real writing for real audiences, and then giving them that opportunity to see what their writing becomes. That AI generator Canva image thing I've used a couple of different times. But even thinking about if you had them, all of the parts of WeWillWrite, where you write the fiction parts, you're writing the villain, you're writing the setting, you're writing whatever, it'd be really cool to take those, when you mentioned that, Erin, take those and throw those into the Canva creator and see what image they come up of your villain that you've described, right? Or talk about your super pet, or talk about the setting, and to see, did you do a good enough job? Did you really come up with enough detail? And how much fun that would be, because WeWillWrite, I think the foundation, and whether you meant this, Daniel, or not, it started so much in fiction writing, in getting those creative stories just going, that you had so many good kind of creative, exploratory, all over the place prompts that just allowed the kids' imaginations to go wild. And so to now then have something that will try to generate a concrete object off of, like a concrete image, that's really cool. It's because it takes all backwards.
Yeah.
And I think you're talking about this kind of metacognition, that the students are analyzing their text compared to their peers. And I think this with also thinking about like what an image they generate and kind of look back at their text. And I think this is really, really helpful for children to learn quickly and understand and see patterns. And I usually use the term,
what makes something good.
Yeah, I call this inductive teaching. It's kind of, instead of we kind of being really narrow of what we want them to learn, it's kind of open challenges, and they write, and we kind of help them close in later, but they can see a lot of different directions and patterns.
It's really helped me give feedback when we want feedback, because typically if it's just like within a Google Doc, we get feedback at the end, or they see their peers work kind of more towards the end. And this is providing feedback before the like edit revision phase, and that they can compare at that point, which makes feedback more valuable, because it's not, they haven't seen it as done yet. You know, when you're once it's submitted, it's done. Well, what good is any feedback? So this thought process kind of being in the middle is excellent.
And it's really hard for them at this stage to write the disposition, to kind of make a structure. Is kind of really, really hard. So this helps to kind of build some kind of a mind map or a story map of different potential stories before they kind of dig into it.
I did want to put in the, I'll put it in the comments here. If you want to, this is another link. It takes you to a Google form. So if you want this resource, the slide deck, I've shared the link here. But if you want to fill this out, if you would like PD credit for attending, if you want to be added to the list from WeWillWrite, they'll have your email. They can send you out when the webinars are, new features. If you want to get on their mailing list, complete this Google form, and someone from WeWillWrite will add you to their email list and blast when new features come out. And also we can send you a certificate for watching and attending if you'd like to receive, if your district honors those for PD points or recertification points. So we are nearing the hour mark. Daniel or Jesse, are there any closing remarks or things you want to end us with?
I mean, I think one of the coolest aspects of this amazing enterprise here, this big company that's doing these great things, it's still a small company that is listening to its users, that it's coming out with so many things. Like Erin had mentioned earlier, like it seems since December, it's grown exponentially. So you definitely want to dip your toes in a little and try it. And because there's obviously going to be a lot more that's coming out. And the possibilities now that we can create sets really are endless, because it can be as unique and authentic as your teaching is in your classroom. So I'm just so excited that creating the sets is now a thing, because it's going to be big.
Yeah. Daniel, could you leave us with like one thing you guys are thinking about, or one feature you've heard teachers really want, and kind of like give us a little tidbit of what we might see?
I think the one thing I've been thinking mostly about lately, and we're working with, is kind of to make reports more kind of to give teachers more feedback based on the session. So we're thinking about sending out an email to teacher with a summary, and have some kind of over time summary, so we can kind of follow your students through a semester and see how they progress. So that's because I think that would help teachers a lot. Since a lot of these challenges are quite free and open, it's really important to kind of follow up on students and see what they actually learn and what you need to focus on. So that's something we're looking into, if we can guide you. Kind of now we see that the class actually mastered this and this Common Core standards. These things they need to practice more. And then we can maybe give you that guide, so we know which challenges or which other tools you should look into.
It's always going to be capital letters and periods. Come on, it's always going to be capital letters and periods.
Yeah, for a long time.
No, I love that. And as someone that was a special education teacher, like on the special education end of things, to see data and growth over time, and if we are moving towards a goal, I mean, you'll have a whole new demographic of teachers wanting to use this and using it because of that feature. So that's amazing. Well, thank you guys. Thank you everyone for joining us, whether it's live or watching this recorded session. Reach out to Daniel or anyone from the WeWillWrite team. They will follow up with you for sure. Jesse, are you on any social media platforms, Jesse? Are you part of the Facebook group? Or no? So we're lucky to have found you. So I scour the, I scour the Facebook page from time to time and try to add ideas on social media. So I like to shout out like stuff I love. So if anyone has any questions, and this is one of my handles here, you can reach out and I'd be happy to, if you want to test something out. I'm happy as a teacher to combine our powers together. So thank you everyone for joining us, and I'm sure we'll be seeing y'all soon.
Yeah.
All right.